Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to share today's video because I love talking about drugstore and affordable makeup. And today I have a bunch of different drugstore alternatives to some of my favorite high-end products. I wouldn't necessarily call all of these exact dupes because the color might be different or the formula might be slightly different, but these drugstore products are just as great as some of these high-end products. And in a lot of cases, I find myself reaching for the drugstore alternative more than the high-end counterpart. So I'm excited to share this video with you guys. I have a couple of other videos like this on my channel. If you like this style of video, I'll link them in the description box below. But let's kick it off with a few eyeshadow alternatives. So earlier this year, I did purchase the Melt Cosmetics Smoke Sessions palette, and I've really been enjoying it. I love green eyeshadow, and I've kind of been reaching for a lot of neutrals lately, so it's been fun to pull out the alternative that I have on my eyes today and just kind of incorporate some color back into my makeup routine. The Smoke Sessions palette comes with 8 different shadows. It's $48, I believe. Let me double check. I just double checked. It is $48 and you get 8 shadows. So $48 can be a little bit expensive, especially if you don't wear green shadow all the time. Now for me, I feel like this palette was worth the money because I do love the quality of Melt Cosmetics shadows, but I will say there are maybe 1 or 2 shadows in here that aren't the greatest and they require a little bit of extra work. So if you don't want to spend the money on this palette, if the mixed reviews have kind of turned you off, or if you feel like you won't wear the shadows enough to justify the price, I have a good alternative for you. The E.L.F. Bite-Sized Eyeshadow Palette in Hot Jalapeno might be a really good alternative for you. These shadows in here are very, very similar to 4 shadows in the Melt Cosmetics palette. Now, obviously, this only comes with 4 shadows, and the Melt palette comes with 8, so it is missing a few, but I think you can get a very similar look on the eyes overall. It's just kind of missing those minty tones. So if you like mint eyeshadow, you might be interested in the ColourPop Mint to Be palette, or even some of their single Super Shock shadows. But if you like the greens and the golds in this palette, this is going to be a great alternative. I actually have this one on my eyes today. The matte shadows are so blendable and very easy to work with. I would almost say that they're a little bit easier to work with than Melt Cosmetics because Melt Cosmetics eyeshadows are so intensely pigmented. They can be a little bit more difficult to blend out, but E.L.F. shadows are very blendable. Now they are a little bit more powdery, but because you get that extra blendability, I feel like the trade-off is worth it. And then the metallic shadows are super vibrant. I mean, you can see on my eyes, this is the palette that I have on my eyes today, and it's gorgeous. You can create a really intense, vibrant green look, and then I did incorporate the gold all over the center of the lid as well. So if you're like me and you have colors like this, but you really like this side of the palette, this is definitely going to be a good alternative. It's $3, so save yourself the $45 and purchase this one instead if you're kind of on the fence. Now, as much as I love colorful eyeshadow, I've kind of been into neutrals lately, specifically cooler toned neutrals. I just did a video on my channel where I talked about my favorite neutral eyeshadow palettes, so I'll link that one below and in the eye if you guys are interested in hearing my thoughts. But one palette that I've been loving and talking about a lot on my channel is the Natasha Denona Glam palette. Now, this is a gorgeous palette. I do think it's worth the money, but it's expensive. $65 for an eyeshadow palette is a lot, especially if you're not someone who loves to wear eyeshadow. Like, eyeshadow is my thing. It's what I love to wear. It's what I love to splurge on. But even for me, $65 is a lot to spend on a palette, and I don't love to do that super often. There are 2 products from ColourPop that I do recommend. The first one is a newer palette. This one is called the That's Taupe palette. It comes with 9 cooler toned neutral eyeshadows, and some people might describe this as a boring palette, but I don't see that. I actually think that it's a really fun, exciting palette to use. I love that brands are doing a lot of cooler toned options, and it's nice for people who just don't prefer to wear really intense warm tones on the eyes. I would actually say there are some shades in here that are very similar to shades in the Glam palette. Overall, you get a very similar look, but I think the ColourPop palette has maybe a little more versatility, which is weird to say because this only comes with 9 shadows and the Natasha Denona palette comes with 15 shadows, but this has a couple of like rosy mauve tones. With the Glam palette, I usually get a pretty silvery look or a pretty brown look, but with this one, I can do a silvery look, a brown look, or like a rosy mauve look as well. So I do like this. I think the shadows perform very well. You get 5 matte shadows, 4 shimmers, and then one of the shimmers is a Super Shock shadow. They can build up to be pretty intense on the eyes. So if you like cool tones, then I think that this might be a really good alternative for you. It's not an exact dupe by any means, but you get a very similar look on the eyes, and I just think that it is a nice option. It's $14, so it's a lot less expensive. The ColourPop Going Coconuts palette is the other palette I wanted to mention. This one isn't quite as cool toned as the Natasha Denona Glam palette, but the Glam palette does have some neutral undertones in it as well. So if you aren't necessarily a fan of super cool tone shadows, but you don't want something that leans super warm toned, this might be a great option for you because you do get a lot of neutral shadows with neutral undertones. So it's going to be flattering on a lot of skin tones. It's going to pair well with a lot of the palettes in your collection. So I just wanted to include those in today's video because I know a lot of people have been raving about the Glam palette. As much as I love it, I don't feel like you necessarily need it and you have to run out and spend this much money on a palette because there are good alternatives. I'm really excited about this next alternative. So I do love the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powder. I have the shade Diffused Light, and I've used up a good amount of this. I mean, I've hit pan on it, and I'm sure at some point next year I'll use it up completely because this is a powder that I typically use under my eyes to brighten things up, but also really all over my face just to kind of diffuse my bronzer and my blush and my cheek products, and it's really come in handy, and I've been a big fan of it. So I would say, you know, this is worth the money for me because a little bit goes a long way. It really does last a long time, but this is expensive. This is a $48 powder, and if you're not sure if you're going to love it, that can be a lot to invest in a powder. The only reason I was sure I was going to like this is because I did have a mini version of it in an Hourglass holiday palette, so I kind of had the chance to try it out before I purchased the full-size version. But recently I tried this product from E.L.F, and it gives a very, very similar effect. Now the formula is different. This is the Halo Glow Setting Powder, and obviously this is a loose powder, and the Hourglass powder is a pressed powder, but I do find that I use it for the exact same purpose, and I almost prefer the E.L.F formula. This powder does come in different shades. I have the shade Light, which I believe is the lightest shade, so if you have a deeper skin tone, there are going to be other options for you, and this is pretty light, so even if your skin tone is lighter than mine, I still think you could make it work for you. But you could use this to set your foundation into place. The way that I like to use it is as a finishing powder. So after I do my makeup and I apply my bronzer and my blush, I'll take this product and kind of blend everything together or use it to brighten up my under eyes, and it gives your skin such a beautiful finish. This is an incredibly finely milled powder. It's very light, very fluffy, so it looks amazing on the skin, and I'm really impressed by it. The name kind of made me a little bit hesitant to try it when they first released it because they call it the Halo Glow Powder, and I tend to stay away from anything too glowy because my skin is pretty oily, but it just gives your skin like this natural sheen in a very similar way to the Hourglass powder. This next one might be a little bit more of an obvious one, but I did want to mention it in today's video. So I love the CoverFx Monochromatic Blush Duos. I do talk about these a lot on my channel, but they're expensive. They're $38. Typically, I wait until I can get them on sale during like Ulta's 21 Days of Beauty because they have been included in the past few sales, but I love them. I love the fact that they come with two different cheek products. So you can use the matte side on its own, the shimmer side on its own, or mix them together. But when E.L.F released their little bite-sized face duos, I was just excited to try them out because they looked really appealing. And initially, I didn't really think anything of it, but they do look very similar to the CoverFx blush duos, and they have a very similar layout. So they do have one matte side and one shimmer side. Again, you can use the sides separately or mix them together. I won't say that the quality is exactly the same. The E.L.F products are maybe a little bit more powdery and not as smooth on the cheeks, but these are $3. I will say that the E.L.F products are pretty pigmented, and so are the CoverFx products, so I think they definitely nailed that part of the formula. They're maybe just a little bit more powdery, and obviously the packaging isn't quite as luxurious as the CoverFx packaging, but I do think that they are a nice option. They're $3, they're really affordable, and they have a lot of different shades to choose from. So I do have an alternative to another Hourglass product that I wanted to share with you guys in today's video. A few years ago, or maybe last year, I purchased one of the Hourglass bronzers during the Sephora VIB sale. I've heard so many good things about Hourglass bronzers, and I love the Hourglass blushes, so I just kind of assumed that I would love it, but I really didn't like how it looked on my skin. I felt like it looked very patchy. I had to really layer it up to get good pigmentation, and no matter what I did, it just didn't look as great as like my $3 bronzer from e.l.f. Now, my bronzer preferences have changed a little bit, so I thought maybe I would enjoy the bronzer again. I actually have a mini version of an Hourglass bronzer in this old holiday palette, so I use this from time to time, but I never like how it looks on the skin, and I thought it was because it's more of like a baked formula. I don't know if they necessarily market them as baked bronzers, but it's like that hard, firmly pressed bronzer, and when you swirl your brush in, you get like a light layer. So anyway, I kind of wrote off baked bronzers thinking they just weren't for me, but I've been working on a Best of Milani video, so I did purchase the Milani Baked Bronzer, and I love this. I have this on my cheeks today, and it just gives my skin such a gorgeous natural glow. It blends out so easily, and again, it just looks very natural on the skin, which is typically how Hourglass products look on my skin, but just not the Hourglass bronzers. So if you've been curious about the Hourglass bronzers, I definitely recommend trying this out because I would say that it gives the effect that I thought the Hourglass bronzers would, but in a better way. And obviously this is a lot more affordable. Even if you haven't really been interested in the Hourglass bronzers, the Milani Baked Bronzer might be a really great option for you if you do like more of a subtle, naturally bronzed glow. So I've loved the Urban Decay Perversion liquid liner for a while. I've repurchased it so many times, and I love black winged liner. I pretty much wear it every single time I do makeup, unless I'm doing like a 5-minute makeup look, but even then, sometimes I'll still take the time to apply it just because I love how it looks. And this liner is so nice because it is a brush tip, but it's also super intense, very dark and dramatic, and it stays in place extremely well. It truly is a waterproof liner. But I recently picked up the ColourPop BFF liquid liner in their new brush tip packaging. Now they do have this formula in a felt tip, which I do enjoy, and I will reach for that one on occasion, but because I like brush tip liners so much, I wanted to try this one out, and I will say that this one goes on really nicely and stays in place extremely well. I don't know if the formula is the exact same as the formula in their felt tip liners, but I do think that this one stays in place a little bit better than their felt tip liners. The only difference between this and the Urban Decay liner is that the Urban Decay liner is a little bit more dark and dramatic. If you don't mind going in with a second layer, this one can look just as dramatic, but if you just go in with one layer, especially over metallic shadow, it's a little bit more subtle. So I am wearing it today. I just layered it up twice, and I felt like I got the same look that I would with the Urban Decay liner. And again, it stays in place well. I would almost say that it stays in place a little bit better than the Urban Decay liner. So my go-to brow gel for probably the past year has been the Hourglass Arch Brow Volumizing Fiber Gel. I actually have a lot of Hourglass alternatives in today's video, which I didn't plan, and I do love Hourglass, but their products are expensive, and this brow gel is pretty pricey. It's $28, and that is the most I've ever spent on a brow gel because typically I do like a lot of drugstore options. I like the Essence Make Me Brow. I also like the ColourPop brow gel, but I felt like this formula was a little bit different. It does lock your brows into place really well. It does have those fibers, so it makes your brows look a little bit more voluminous and full, and I just really enjoyed it. I don't go through it super quickly, so last time there was some sort of Sephora VIB sale, I did pick it up. But I did try out the e.l.f. Wow Brow, and this is such a good alternative. I think that it's actually replaced the Hourglass brow gel for me, and this is $4. The formulas are not exactly the same. The brushes are a little bit different, but I think I like the e.l.f. brow gel better because it's a little bit more of a wet pigmented formula. I have very, very sparse brows, so sometimes, especially if I'm doing like quick everyday makeup, I don't want to take the time to fill them in with a brow pencil, so I'll just take like a tinted brow gel and really run it through my brows. And because this one has pretty good pigmentation, it makes my brows look a lot more thick than they actually are. Not only that, it has the fibers as well, so it adds some volume, it locks them into place, and I've been so impressed by this brow gel. So when I do run out of both of these, I don't plan on repurchasing the Hourglass brow gel. The e.l.f. brow gel has actually replaced it for me. So if you like this product or you've been thinking about trying it, but you don't want to spend $28 because $28 for a brow gel is ridiculous. Try out this $4 brow gel from E.L.F. And I also just realized I have a lot of E.L.F. alternatives in today's video, which again, I did not plan. I've just been trying out a lot of E.L.F. products this year, and I feel like they've really stepped it up. And this product is definitely worth the $4. I mean, I'd pay $8 for this. I'd probably pay even more, honestly, if they did raise the price, which hopefully they won't. $4 really is such a steal. Okay, so let me finish up with lip products. I just have a couple to share with you guys. I recently picked up the Fenty Beauty Sheer Shiny, what is this called? It has a long name. Sheer Shiny Slip Shine. Actually, I think it's Slip Shine Sheer Shiny Lipstick. It has a very long name, whatever it is. But I was excited about this. I haven't been purchasing a lot of lip products, so it's been nice to add the occasional new lip product to my collection. And these really appealed to me because they're supposed to be really glossy and moisturizing and comfortable. They have a bunch of shades, but I just chose Makeout Break because I tend to wear nude lipsticks overall. And this is a really nice formula. I love layering it on top of a darker lipstick just to add like a pop of shine and a highlighted look in the center of my lips. Before I purchased the Fenty lipstick, I was actually using this NYX lipstick quite a bit. This is the NYX Filler Instinct Plumping Lip Color in the shade Beach Casual, and it looks very similar on the lips. Now the colors are almost exactly the same, but the formulas are so similar. They're both kind of sheer lipsticks that have a glossy, smooth finish. They're incredibly moisturizing, so comfortable, and I was using this one to kind of highlight whatever nude lipstick I was wearing at the moment as well. So if you have been thinking about trying the Fenty lipstick but you don't want to spend the money, definitely check out this one from NYX. Now there aren't quite as many shades in the NYX line, and I would say that this formula is maybe a little bit more opaque than the Fenty formula, but it comes very, very close, and if you don't want to splurge on a high-end lipstick, you can get a very similar effect with this one. I probably have 3 or 4 lip liner formulas in my makeup collection, and they're all drugstore or affordable brands, with the exception of these 2 Charlotte Tilbury lip liners. And I told myself that I had to find a dupe for them within my collection because once I use them up, I don't plan on repurchasing them. These are a little bit expensive, and because I have formulas that I love that are like $4 or $5, I just can't justify the price of these, you know, in the future when I'm thinking about repurchasing them. I mean, lip liners last for a while, they really do, and I think that these look amazing on the lips. The formula is a little bit more natural, so I think that you can kind of get away with overlining your lips without it looking very obvious, obviously depending on how much you overline, the exact color, but either way, I have 2 that I love. So I have Pillow Talk, and then I also have Iconic Nude. I would say that the closest affordable alternative that I have in my collection in terms of formula would be the Makeup Revolution Satin Kiss Lip Liners. So they do have a few shades. When they first released these, I think they had like 4 or 5 shades, but they've expanded and they have a couple more. The Charlotte Tilbury lip liners are not completely matte. They definitely have more of a matte finish, but I have other lip liners that are a little bit more dry and uncomfortable. So that's one of the reasons why I do love the Charlotte Tilbury lip liners. They're just comfortable to wear. They look great and they dry down, but not to the point where they're super matte or uncomfortable. The Makeup Revolution lip liners feel very, very similar on the lips. So if there is a shade in the Makeup Revolution line that appeals to you, that might be a good alternative. The shade Chauffeur is pretty similar to the Charlotte Tilbury lip liner in Pillow Talk. It's not exact, but it's very, very close. And honestly, if you're wearing these under a lipstick, you will not be able to tell the difference at all. So for me, I will definitely be repurchasing this if I run out of it over Pillow Talk because it's a lot more affordable and they feel very similar on the lips. So I am interested in picking up a few more of these Satin Kiss lip liners because they come very, very close to Charlotte Tilbury. I would say that the ColourPop Lippie pencils are also a little bit similar, but these probably have more of a matte finish. I would also say that they perform a little bit better. They really lock my lipsticks into place a little bit better than the Charlotte Tilbury lipsticks. But I will say that the shade BFF comes very close to the Charlotte Tilbury lip liner in Iconic Nude. It's, again, slightly different, but if you're wearing it under a lipstick, you will never notice the difference. And these apply really nicely. They almost apply a little bit better than Charlotte Tilbury as well because they just glide on so easily and then they dry down to lock whatever lipstick you have into place. So I do recommend Makeup Revolution or ColourPop, just kind of depending on which brand you like, which one has colors that you reach for. And I still think the Charlotte Tilbury lip liners are nice. nice. It's just they're a little bit more expensive. So if you're looking for an affordable alternative, definitely check out these two formulas. So that is everything I wanted to share with you guys in today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I would love to hear from you. So let me know in the comment section below if you guys have discovered any good, affordable drugstore options that you actually reach for more than the high-end product in your collection, because I would love to know. I'm always looking for really affordable alternatives. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you have a great day. And if you guys like these videos, I'll link a few more in the description box below. Otherwise, I'll see you very soon with a new video. Bye.